Hello, this is Dr. Paul Cottrell, and I am recording this at about 6 o'clock p.m. New York time. It is 4/5/2024 for the date. As you know, there was a earthquake in New York that happened in the morning. It was a 4.7 or about 4.8 scaled earthquake. The epicenter was in New Jersey. Some people felt it, especially in New Jersey, and other people in um, higher levels in the building actually felt the shaking. I was talking to someone when it actually happened, and I didn't feel it, but I was closer to the ground when that was happening. So, that could have been part of the reason. I don't know why, but it's not that big of a deal. In the news, they're overblowing it. There is some property damage in New Jersey. I don't know if anyone has property damage in New York City at all, but it's not that really big of a deal. But I think that it's important to document my thoughts on this. This dovetails into an event that took place on 4/3/2024. So 2 days ago, the Statue of Liberty was hit by lightning. Now, the Statue of Liberty is known to be hit by lightning, but what is strange about this year compared to last year is there's an awful lot of rain, more rain. And on Wednesday, 4/3/2024, there was there was a thunderstorm. It was raining all day, and lightning hit the Statue of Liberty's light. Okay. And there's this famous picture that's floating around now that's gone viral on this lightning strike. This lightning strike took place one day before the communique from the White House with the meeting between Netanyahu and Biden's administration on how to conduct the war in Gaza. And the Israelis have been warned by the Biden administration about collateral damage, especially in light of what happened with the aid workers along the safe route along the coast, where they were hit, I believe, by F-35s. So Israel did a investigation and found that the pilots or the soldiers that were tied to this were at fault and therefore were disciplined and dismissed from duty. Now, my take on this is this: the United States is holding Israel's is holding back Israel in conducting the war because of political expedience, and the Pentagon doesn't want a wider war with Iran, at least not right now. So they really want to de-escalate this for political expedience, and they're concerned about a wider conflict, especially when you look at it in the context of a three-front war in the world, where you have the European theater, Asian theater, and the Middle Eastern theater, and then a potential three-front war in the Middle East, where you have war with Hamas, Hezbollah, and Iran directly. So there's a lot going on in the world, and the Biden administration is trying to hold back the Netanyahu administration. My take on this is that the United States is being judged, and that if the United States doesn't stop aligning itself partially with Esau, that there's going to be a curse, and that some of these events they're warning signs that a curse is coming if there's not some sort of corrective action on the American side. Now, how this all plays out, I can't exactly tell you, but I just get this really dark feeling that started on December 1st, 2023, that the world is going to be seeing something that it's never seen before. Now, we know that there's 3 red heifers, or at least a minimum of 3 red heifers. I've heard cases where there might be even 4, but let's just say there's 3. These 3 red heifers need to be sacrificed soon. Soon meaning most likely before Rosh Hashanah. Now, it was last Sabbath where there was a special reading of Numbers, special reading of the Torah, where that part was read in shul, where it's from the book of Numbers, chapter 19, verse 1. Talks about the red heifer. All right. Now, people were thinking, oh, it must be sacrificed, on that day. Well, I don't think it's actually lawful from a biblical standpoint to actually slaughter the red heifers on the Shabbos. So I knew that wasn't going to take place. But the question is, when is it going to take place? Some people think it's going to take place before Passover, which I'm in that camp. And there are other people that think it's going to take place right before Rosh Hashanah, which would be October 3rd, or somewhere in between. Now, there are 3 animals, and it's possible that there's actually going to be 3 separate sacrifices. It's also possible that they sacrifice all 3 at the same time. What is interesting is that when they slaughter the first of the 3, or the first of the 4, my understanding is it will complete the 10 red heifer cycle. And we've been hearing in the news about 10 everywhere in, modern pop culture, right? Yeah, you got X, which was formerly Twitter. You got SpaceX. The operating system for Apple is the X operating system that was bought by Apple when they brought Steve Jobs back to Apple through his Next company. So you had a company called Next, which has an X in the name, and he was using a Unix kernel. And part of him coming back to Apple was that they would be buying the software that he had for Next, and that launched the whole new rebirth of Apple. In addition, as I've been listening to some lectures, from rabbis, not so famous rabbis in this case, where there is this potential energy that's coming from the Sephiros, and that's also dealing with the completion of 10, where there's the 10 attributes within the Sephirah, the tree of life that helps with the energy of nations, the energy of people. So, there's a lot of metaphysical things that are happening. All right. But I do think that the event of the lightning striking the Statue of Liberty on 4/3/24 was a sign of America to watch what it does in terms of trying to regulate Israel fighting Esau. So this goes back to the battle of the soul roots, the soul root of Jacob and the soul root of Esau. Now, some people will, not really pay attention to what I am saying. I don't really care, because I know that there's something really big that is starting to emerge. And that dark cloud over the world started on December 1st, 2023. We're living through it. Now, it makes sense to do the sacrifice for the red heifer in April, because that's the peak of the soul root strength for Jacob. But there is a case that, well, maybe you need to sacrifice at least one of the red heifers, maybe all of them, near the peak of Esau to try to calm the strength of Esau. So, I'm not really sure, from a Kabbalistic point of view, what the best time frame would be. But I do know this from a probability standpoint. If the red heifers have more than 2 hairs that are not red, then you are invalidating the sacrifice. So Israel is not going to take the chance to invalidate the sacrifices by pushing the sacrifice of the red heifers down the road, right? So that increases the probability that at least one of them will be sacrificed in April. But I am kind of surprised that we don't know the births of these. We don't know the actual birth date. We only have a guesstimation. So my understanding is they have to be in their third year to their fifth year. There's two interpretations. One, it has to be done in the third year, and then there's another one that it says that it can be postponed all the way to the fifth year. But if you go to the fifth year, then you're adding to the probability of having the sacrifice invalidated. So this hasn't happened to this level for over 2,000 years. So when they start sacrificing the animal, there's going to be, or animals, there's going to be a fire on the altar that's, I believe, on Mount Olive. And it's going to be seen in Jerusalem. And my take is that the media is going to have cameras and it's going to be televised live. It's probably going to be, if this does happen, this is probably going to be an event that's much bigger than 9/11 in terms of eyeballs on a TV screen, all right, or eyeballs in social media. Everywhere in the world is going to know that the red heifers they're being burnt on the altar. I'm not sure that they're going to televise the actual slaughtering of the animals. I suspect they will not be, and that will be private and unknown, and all of a sudden there's a fire on the altar, and then the news will start playing it. There are several koans that have to be pure to be able to do this, and while they do different steps through the process, they become impure and have to burn. They have to immerse their clothing, and they have to in a mikvah, and then they have to wait 24 hours or nightfall for them to be pure again. So there are very few people in the world that fall in this category where they're kohen that never was exposed to a dead body, and that they have, they're living a pure life. There's not that many out there, all right, but there are, and that's that's probably part of the reason why things are a little bit not televised as much, to make sure for their safety and also the safety of the animals. But something big is potentially happening. Now, some people are saying maybe it's even going to happen on April 8th. I don't know. It seems too coincidental with the eclipse. I probably would fall in the camp that it's not going to be, but that would fall into the idea that it is being sacrificed before Passover. Passover starts April 22nd, I believe. It's somewhere around now to April 22nd or after Passover, sometime between after Passover and Rosh Hashanah. Now, there is a countdown, I believe it's after Passover, where it's the countdown to the Omer. And that's a 50-day countdown or 49-day countdown. So it may make sense to try to have the sacrifices before the Omer, or I can make a case where they sacrifice after the Omer. So it might be 50 days after Passover where it actually happens. But the point here is that it most likely will be this year in the Jewish calendar. So, and that the Jewish calendar resets itself on Rosh Hashanah, which will be October 3rd. So this seems to, there's an increasing probability of these red heifers will be, at least one of them will be sacrificed soon. Now, there's going to be a lot of kicking and screaming by Esau, by the Muslim communities, because this is the countdown where it's actually starting. The clock starts of taking down the Dome of the Rock once these animals are sacrificed. So there's going to be kicking and screaming, and there's going to be things that happen in the international world where they're going to try to demonize Israel and get the international community to jump on the bandwagon to prevent Israel from actually fighting and killing off Hamas, Hezbollah, and Iran. And what I mean by that, I mean the military apparatus. But we also have to keep in mind that as this countdown starts and the Dome of the Rock comes down, Israel's borders are going to go back to the biblical time period. And those borders would include the Sinai Peninsula, the West Bank, parts of Jordan, parts of Lebanon, and parts of Syria. So something big has to happen in the Middle East for all this to happen. The Muslims aren't going to be willing to give this away for nothing. Now, it is mankind's option to either do this peacefully or this will be very bloody. So most likely mankind is not going to be wise, and this will be a bloody incident that takes place. Now, be prepared. I'm not a big, I'm not really big into the whole prepping movement thing. But just be aware and be prepared spiritually, because if these red heifers get sacrificed, there's going to be tumultuous times, especially from people that are aligned with the soul of Esau. Now, if you're more aligned with the soul of Jacob, you're going to be demonized. There's going to be, things that you wish weren't happening in your life, but in the end, it's going to be better. For Esau, in the short term, they're going to try to demonize the soul root of Jacob. And in the short term, they may actually have a little bit of benefit, at least in the eyes of the international community. And then all of a sudden something will happen and there will be a curse. So this is what I mean by the blessing and the curse, and for people to be prepared for it by 12/1/23. So, if people were paying attention, as I was warning in October, November, December, January, February, March, now we're in April, that something big was happening. Back in October and November, I didn't really pay attention too much with the red heifer stuff. I was more focused on the actual war that was going on in Israel and in Gaza. But something big seems to be emerging. And this cannot be quelled by typical international policy or international dialogue. This is not going to be solved at the UN. It's going to be solved actually on the battlefield, and it's going to be solved through building the temple. And the international community over time is going to be losing strength. They're going to start realizing that they don't really have a say in this. But the Biden administration, unfortunately, has been holding Israel back in being able to kill off Hamas, Hezbollah, and the military apparatus in Iran. And until America gets on board that they have to go all out and not to be fearful, the United States is increasing the probability of being cursed. And these signs that we saw on 4/3 and today with the earthquake, so the lightning strike on the Statue of Liberty and the earthquake in New York, which is a very, very rare event where the epicenter was in New Jersey. It wasn't that bad, but it's a warning. It's, so, we have to stop thinking demonizing Israel. You got to get on board because this nation, the American nation, the United States, this is a nation that's Christian and Judaic. And this, be more in line with that soul root, which is the soul root of Jacob, not the soul root of Esau. Now, some people will disagree with me and think that you can internationally make peace with what's going on, but this is, once those red heifers are sacrificed, this is out of our hands. And you got to pick a side, and one side's going to get cursed and one side's going to get a blessing. And my interpretation of these events is that the soul of Jacob will be getting the blessing and the soul root of Esau will be getting the curse. Thank you for listening. This is my take on the two events that took place this week, and that America is being warned that the Biden administration is holding back Israel and will be cursed. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and help support my work by getting the health supplements that I offer. I offer structural nanosilvers C60, which is a very strong antioxidant. I also have a plethora of different supplements that help to boost up your immune system. So please go to my store, help support your health, and help support my work in trying to inform you about these world events that are going to be life-changing. In addition, you can purchase ebooks that I have written over the years. I also have these lectures about immunology and pulmonology that you can purchase for $50, and you'll learn about how the human body works. Please help support my work also through donations. You can donate through Stripe, PayPal, or buy me a coffee on the homepage of my website, the-studio-reykjavik.com. All the links are in the description of this video and all my videos. Thank you for your support. I really appreciate it. Hopefully you get some unique perspectives on, my take on this. As a practicing Jew, it's difficult in the, during these times because of all the hate that's out there. And I'm sure that it's very difficult for the Muslim communities in the United States also. And we need the people that practice Christianity or the Muslim faith or even the Jewish faith all need to come together and make this world a peaceful place. But the reality is it's written down in the Bible for thousands of years that this was going to happen. And to think that we're going to be, forever in the strength of Esau's soul root on the Temple Mount, that's not how that's not how the metaphysics of this works. And we're seeing a regime switching on the Temple Mount right in front of our eyes. So get in line, with the soul roots. And once all this starts to abate and things calm down, there will be a gigantic blessing for everybody on this earth. But there's going to be tumultuous times as we get towards that period. Thank you for listening, and have a nice night.